to step back to wards for a second, one of the things that I was very curious about is how wards come to be. Because, you know, somebody has to draw them out. Who's drawing them out? How is that decision made? Is it population based? Like, how do you figure out how big or how small a
It is
ward should be?
population based.
Okay. Yeah. Talk us about the process of drawing up wards and making sure that your representation in your city is well distributed.
The balance wants to be approximately in each ward about 5,000 people
Okay.
because we're 30,000.
Yeah.
So 6 times 5, 30. So that's a balance. You don't want a ward that has 2,500
Mm-hmm.
and the other has 7,000. So how it's a lot of the census, then it goes to the state. It gets complicated that way.
We just did a not a wholesale realignment, but we had to adjust our wards based on the 2020 census data because of its timing, because it came out much later than expected. It added a few complications, but we worked through that pretty well. But what we saw is there were 3 wards that to follow the state requirement, which is to balance them. They do allow us to select the plus minus, the range.
Right.
I mean, you could be, hey, if you're the same, plus or minus 10%, would be okay with that. We use 1%, so we get, we're down to the nitty gritty. So there were 3 wards that needed to have folks moved out and moved into another ward, and then you have to do this geographically too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't have. What we really ended up doing, if you look, if you did a montage, fade from the old to the new, you would see the wards rotate counterclockwise.
Mm.
And in fact, where I live on Toland Road, prior to the realignment, my side of the road was Ward 5, the other side was Ward 5.
Okay.
But Ward 6 was right behind Toland Road, and Toland and Ward 5 needed to let Ward 6 have some people.
Mm.
So they basically, now the road splits the ward. So my neighbor across the street's not in my ward anymore. But it means I've got some new constituents down by the high school and the middle school.
Now y'all are rivals.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really ever changing. I mean, not every year, but I mean, with the development that occurs in the city,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could get an area, especially when the waterfront goes in. I mean, you'll get an influx of X amount of voters, and that could throw a balance off.
And we knew as soon as we got the census data that it was already obsolete to some degree.
Yeah.
The new 104 Washington apartment building,
Mm-hmm.
when the census takers came through, hadn't been occupied yet.
Mm.
Now it has been occupied, so the imbalance is already there. But that's just going to continue, like Bob said, with the waterfront development.
That's why they get
Catch that
redrawn
again
and
in
updated and stuff
2030,
like that.
when we're here, still doing it.
Yeah.
But one thing just to make absolutely categorically proclaim is that this is not a political process. The Ward 6 councilor did not advocate to take over the other side of Toland Road, to build up his base.
Yeah.
We don't even know what the base is, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, at this small of a scale, I guess what you're describing is gerrymandering. At this small of a scale, it seems very difficult to even accomplish that.
I mean, we want everyone to know these are nonpartisan seats.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, blue, red, green, yellow, Republican, Democrat, Independent. It doesn't matter. In fact, had it been partisan, I could not have run for office the first year that I did because I was working for the federal government. And the Hatch Act says, thou shalt not assume a partisan position. So I was very careful and, talked to a couple of lawyers and they said, yep, no, you're all set and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is geographical convenience and coordination in how we did it. We did go back and forth. Unfortunately, at the state level, there was some gerrymandering, and people looked to us and said, "Hey, can you do something about that?" Because it affected one of our wards.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, "No, we can't immediately, but however, we can ask the courts to see if this was the right thing to do."
Yeah. Investigate,
and they're doing that. For I'm not sure if there'll be an outcome that changes anything. Certainly didn't change it for that subsequent election that occurred after all that. But
Right.
but we do want people to understand that If there's a concern that they bring to us and we share it, we're gonna
Yeah.
help take some action.
And with the counselors at large, and like you said, people will bring problems to you that are not in your ward, but
Yeah.
that's how they reach out to you. Even if it were there, it doesn't seem productive to do it, because the ability to reach out to the city and make a connection and get a problem solved is not decided necessarily by the ward you live in.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yep.
yeah.